Are you looking to experience Denver without breaking the budget? As you know, Denver is a hot spot. Just today, I was talking to a client who wants to stay in the greater Denver metro area, wants to be in Denver, and we were discussing some affordable places. So tonight, I'm gonna talk to you about exactly that. A few spots to find in Denver. We're gonna dive into statistics. We're gonna dive into the lifestyles that maybe these spots and these neighborhoods have. So stay tuned, super excited for this one. And we're gonna save you a little bit money if you wanna be in the Denver area. Let's go. What's up guys, Jeremy Kane, living in the Denver suburbs, eXp Realty. Excited for this one, getting back to the basics, talking about the cost of living. A hot topic here in Denver. Always, hearing people say, it's so expensive, it's grown so much. And so today we're gonna unpack that a little bit. We're gonna see if we can find maybe a hidden gem or maybe, a area on the rise. I don't wanna call it up and coming per se, but an area is on the rise that you can get into, have the Denver lifestyle and afford it. All right, as always, like, comment, subscribe. Please share this with anybody that's thinking about Denver or has any questions about living in Denver. Maybe they're moving, into the city. We see a little bit of that happening, a little bit more versus the mad rush to the suburbs. But I'm always here to help. Please reach out, text anytime. You can find my number in the comments below and DM me, comment here, whatever you need to get in touch. Always here looking to help you win in the game of real estate in Denver. So let's get right into it. So first things first, Denver's up and coming neighborhoods, obviously it is what it is. Denver's growth seen 20% increase in the last 5 years. Absolutely, incredible the amount of people that are moving. Sure, there are people that are moving out, maybe cashing out and going to the Midwest, looking for some cheaper living. That's not who we're talking about here. We're talking about those people that want to be in the thick of it. They want to experience the lifestyle. They want to experience the culture and the arts and the experience of the, wonderful sports teams that we have, the Nuggets, and hopefully the Broncos figure it out this year. So we're going to kind of get down to that. So as we kind of continue here, some of the emerging neighborhoods, which we'll dive into a little bit more in detail, the three that I picked out were Rhino, South Broadway, and East Colfax. Obviously, South Broadway and East Colfax, you know what they are. Colfax is a street, so the east side of Broadway is considered East Colfax, but more so kind of on that east side of East High School. Rhino, obviously north of Lodo there, a very, classic old warehouse kind of district that's really vibrant and come to play. And then East Colfax, obviously the historical cultures, and you got a couple music venues down that way and all kinds of things that come with that East Colfax corridor. And so those are definitely the ones that we're gonna, dive into. I would encourage you, comment below. I would love to hear what your favorite micro neighborhoods kind of in the Denver metro area are. We can even go out to the suburbs if you got little spots, obviously Sloan's Lake and things like that as we get closer to Lakewood, Belmar. Let's talk about those. Comment below your favorite one. I would love to hear, and maybe we'll feature that area sometime, or maybe you don't want it, so you want it to be the best kept secret. So let's get down to those statistics, right? And here they are. Sit down, buckle up, because the average rent in Denver is up to $21.18. And if you need a second bedroom, we're looking at $27.99 as an average rent, sitting here in mid 2023. So something's got to give, right? And I hear it all the time. Comment below if you think that's too damn expensive, because I hear it, right? I hear it all the time, and I think that we need to really kind of unpack that. Obviously, I sit back and I'm like, well, when I sold my first house in Englewood, 920 square feet, I was like, is there any way that this house will ever be more than $283,000? Well, it sold 3 times since. It's now selling for $450,000, approaching $500,000. So that wasn't probably my best move that I've ever made, but it is what it is. The past is the past. So I do think that this will continue. I think with the way that, we've voted to take away Tabor, and obviously we've seen the tax increases. Unfortunately, we've seen some major hailstorms, so that's going to affect our insurance. All of these things are costs that affect landlords, whether they have a mortgage or not. Taxes and insurance are something they do have. So all of those costs are going to eventually filter into the rental market. And ultimately it's just going to cost more if you want to live in a place that's amazing like Denver, and as the suburbs get more expensive. Average home price in the greater Denver area with 11 counties, $713,674, and so that's driving. My good friend Nicole Ruth reported, with a very modest appreciation, by 2029 we're going to see a $928,000 average price. So we'll be approaching that million number, which you see in some of those more expensive, California districts and things like that. And so we have to understand that the cost of living is there, but it's because of the vibrance of all of these areas. And, let's talk about the national average, right? 12% higher than the national average. Denver's cost of living is 12% higher than the national average. Well, when you factor that in, a lot of it's because of housing. The housing is actually 37% higher than the national average. And, some people would step back and be like, well, Denver's above average, so it should be higher than the national average. And I would tend to agree. We kind of have all the things. We have the arts, we have the foods, we have, the sports teams. We have a really good, vibrant community, still a small town, cow town kind of feel, supposedly. That's going away a little bit. So, yeah, it is what it is. We're going to have to budget our money. We're going to have to, get better jobs. We're going to have to do all of those things. If you have any tips to do something cool in Denver on a budget, definitely throw them in the comments below. I would love to hear those. And as we kind of progress, let's get into those three kind of spots that I'm targeting for my client, right? He wants to be in Denver. He said it. He wants to be in the thick of things, doesn't go hiking or, doesn't need to be at the base of the foothills. Denver's still really close. You can be from downtown Denver and the foothills, into the mountains within 20 minutes max if you know the right roads to take. So, Rhino, obviously the north side of the lower downtown area kind of really emerged. Obviously a huge population gain over the last 5 years and probably even more since that statistic came out. Kind of cool art, graffiti, district, great breweries. Cool. I've done pub crawls there. There's a lot of bike tours and things that go on in that area. First Friday I know is a big deal. The shops and all of that go into the Rhino area. And so that's actually, something there. If we look over to, South Broadway, definitely more of an eclectic feel, right? Different small kind of theme bars. Obviously I have Punch Bowl Social, the big one, but eclectic shops to go with the eclectic coffee shops and all of that, as South Broadway kind of is part of the mix. And then we head over to East Colfax, obviously uptown on the East Colfax, and that's just a ton of history and all of that. What's really helped that East Colfax corridor is even further east is the hospital districts and all of that. So people that don't want to be right by the hospital or right there can be just a little bit west, and kind of take advantage of East Colfax, maybe some smaller homes. Rhino has really emerged because of the mixed use and the condos and the things that have, come to fruition over the last 10 years there. East Colfax, you're gonna have smaller homes. You're gonna have, the availability to some of that. Obviously there are condos and developments going up all over. One thing that will affect all of these places is, the 1,100 unit condo projects that are going on, in Lodo that's scheduled to be done within the next 5 years, bringing 1,100 new, units to inventory as we go. And so, yeah, people say, well, Rhino's not cheap and East Colfax, whatever, but compared to Highlands and Lodi and Baker, Wash Park, obviously, and all of those areas that have blown up over the last 10, 15 years, as far as pricing goes, we have to understand that these are kind of the best options with, still the options for, entertainment and nightlife and the culture and all the things that people gravitate towards. So I hope that helped. If you have an experience in one of these areas that you want to share and, maybe a hidden gem in these areas as they emerge and help that small business out, please comment below, tag them. I would love to, maybe do a highlight with their business and all of that. So I hope that helps you guys out. I hope those numbers didn't shock you too much. The cost of living is what it is. It's going up kind of nationwide. We've seen that with inflation. And we know real estate is kind of a driver to that. So just wanted to give you a recap of that. Check out these areas for sure and take them for what they are. And maybe there's opportunity. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if you need anything, and send this to somebody who's thinking about making a move, within Denver and maybe wants to save a buck or two. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.